In this video, we will talk about the definition of a narcissist. There are many misconceptions of what a narcissist is. Many people expect them to be malignant. Many people think that it's just someone with a very self-inflated ego and don't really understand the dynamics of how it can affect a relationship when someone is a narcissist or has narcissistic traits. And some people find it hard to believe that their partner or ex-partner is truly a narcissist because they don't recognize everything from the abuse cycle. So let's clear some of those questions out. First of all, let's look into the definition of a narcissist. This is the definition of Google, what a narcissist is. This is a person who has an excessive interest in or admiration of themselves, who think the world revolves around them. So this is someone that we see with a very inflated ego. We maybe see persons that are taking a lot of selfies as a narcissist, but that's essentially not what we're talking about in the terms of relationships and the narcissistic personality disorder, which is what we will dive into on the next slide. So if we have a narcissistic personality disorder, that is a mental disorder characterized by a lifelong pattern of exaggerated feelings of self-importance, an excessive craving for admiration, and a diminished ability to empathize with others' feelings. This is a disorder. This is a learned behavior. And someone that is just, when we just, throw out the term, oh, they're a narcissist, we just say that to anyone that is focusing a lot on themselves, which is not necessarily true. You don't have to be a narcissist because you're focusing a lot on yourself or you have a bit of a self-inflated ego. We are all narcissists at some scale because we do have an ego and we care about our ego because our ego needs to survive. So we do care about our ego, but we might not have a self-inflated ego like we say with the narcissist. For the narcissistic personality disorder, to get the diagnosis, one must meet 5 out of 9 criteria, which are the following: grandiose sense of self-importance, preoccupation with fantasies of unlimited success, power, brilliance, beauty, or ideal love, belief that he or she is special and unique and can only be understood by or should associate with other special or high status people or institutions. So they think they are better than everyone else. Requires excessive admiration, has a sense of entitlement, is interpersonally exploitative, takes advantage of others, lacks empathy, envies others or believes others are envious of him or her, shows arrogant behaviors and attitudes. So this is the definition of a narcissistic personality disorder, and one must have 5 out of 9 of these criteria to get diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorders. So, does it mean that you can't experience a toxic relationship even if a person doesn't have the narcissistic personality disorder, like they don't have the disorder? This is what we will talk about now. So we're going to look into the theory about attraction. This is called the self-love continuum theory by Dr. Rosenberg. So the theory that he has presented is a scale where codependency is on the minus side and pathological narcissism on the plus side. So the codependency side have a lot of others orientation. So we focus on others mostly, while we look at the narcissists, they focus on themselves mostly. So these come in a scale, they come in a spectra. So the more someone is others orientated, the more codependency traits they will have. The more someone is self-orientated, the more narcissistic traits they will have. This means that you can have narcissistic traits without having a narcissistic personality disorder. So a healthy relationship lies in the range between -2 and +2, because the theory, which I didn't mention, is that we attract our opposite on the scale. So if someone is a -2, we will attract a +2. And this lies in the healthy range, like the healthy relationships. Whilst the narcissistic personality traits, you can see them on the top there, they will span everything after +2 to +5. This is an example of the spectra only, but you can see that you can have narcissistic personality traits throughout the spectra without this person needing to have a diagnosis, because if they have a narcissistic personality disorder diagnosis, they will be on the far end of this scale. They will have the pathological narcissism stamp, so to say. We don't call it stamp, but they will be on the further range. And the further down you are on that range, the more someone is self-focused, the more they love themselves, the more they can't focus on others, the abuse cycle will be more intense. I will link the video to the abuse cycle after this video, so you can have a look at what I'm talking about, because the abuse cycle is key to understanding toxic relationship and what's going on in them. We're going to have another deep dive into, this is how I lay it out, just to be able to present how it can play out. Even if someone is not a narcissist, you can still have a toxic relationship, because there is a lot of focus on just the narcissistic persons, and people might not recognize everything in the abuse cycle and might not want to they might not feel like their partner is truly a narcissist because they don't tick all the boxes, and that is correct. They might not tick all the boxes because they are not a true narcissist, but you will still have the toxic traits in a relationship, which I will come to now. So it can be as simple as someone having an anxious attachment style. So this is based on the attachment style theories. There are 4 different styles. I'm going to just briefly mention 2 of them to understand the connection of how this can play out in a toxic relationship. This will most likely be these 2 attachment styles when it comes to codependency and narcissism. Whilst these are also on a spectrum, so we will have one primary and one secondary, and we will have a bit of all the attachment styles. So let's say someone has an anxious attachment style and will be with someone with a dismissive attachment style. This means the anxious attachment style will focus more on others, and this dismissive attachment style person will focus more on themselves. So these persons have fears. The anxious attachment person have fear of being abandoned, whilst the dismissive avoidant person, they fear commitment and intimacy. So you can see that these 2 fears, they clash. And this means that when these 2 clash, they will trigger each other. So the anxious person will get triggered by the dismissive avoidant person, maybe because that person feels like she or he can't connect with the dismissive person, and the dismissive attachment style person might feel that they are starting to feel smothered by the person that wants constant reassurance and wants to feel connected all the time. So what happens is that the dismissive attachment person will withdraw. They might want to be for themselves, they might withdraw, they might make themselves unavailable, which will then trigger the anxious attachment style, and they will become clingy and trying to save the situation, trying to have a conversation like, what's wrong? I can feel you have changed. So this situation is an example of how a relationship can be toxic, even though there is not really a true narcissistic personality driving the abuse cycle, although the triggers and fears on both of these attachment style may trigger the abuse cycle in some extent, because it's triggered by the fear. So you can feel similarities to the abuse cycle, like the dismissive person disappearing and the anxious person wanting to get their feelings soothed by the other person in order to feel like they feel safe in the relationship. So this is an example that you don't have to be a narcissist, to have the to have a toxic relationship, or to have the traits of a toxic relationship. So the question is, can it work out? Can you have the relationship with your can you make it work, so to say? And the further someone is on the scale, on the narcissistic scale, the more difficult it is. But if your dismissive attachment style person is willing to work on their learned patterns, there is, of course, a greater possibility to fix the relationship if you're both willing to do the work, to go and see someone and sort out your issues, your own triggers, your own childhood traumas. But if you are with someone that says that they don't want to solve your situation, to go to therapy, then the question is then for you to answer, why are you with a person that doesn't want to fix your relationship, that doesn't want to have a healthy relationship, that doesn't really want to have a clear communication, open communication, and a loving relationship with you? But it's always, I'm not going to say it's always fixable, because it's not always fixable. But if both parties are truly willing to work on it and your own triggers and what you bring to the table, there is always a possibility to make the relationship work out.